Your brain can feel slow, foggy, disconnected, even when nothing looks wrong. You're sleeping, you're eating fine, you're doing everything right. And yet, something inside you feels dull, heavy, muted, like your mind is wrapped in cotton. Here's the shocking truth most people never hear. Your brain fog may have nothing to do with your brain at all. What if the real problem isn't stress, age, motivation, or discipline? What if it starts somewhere you've never questioned? Something so normal, so familiar, that you've ignored it your entire life. What if it starts in your feet? Welcome to DEEPBODY LAB. That idea alone feels almost offensive to the rational mind. Feet are just feet, right? They carry us. We protect them with shoes. We never associate them with intelligence, clarity, or mental performance. And yet, hidden beneath that assumption is one of the most overlooked systems in human biology. Right now, as you're listening to this, your brain is constantly asking a single question. Am I safe? Not emotionally, physically. And it answers that question using signals from your body, especially from the ground up. Your feet are packed with sensory receptors designed to tell your nervous system where you are in space, how stable you are, and whether the environment beneath you is predictable or dangerous. When those signals are clear, your brain relaxes. When those signals are muted, distorted, or missing, your brain compensates. It tightens, it tenses, it works harder just to maintain basic stability. That extra effort doesn't feel like panic. It feels like brain fog, mental fatigue, poor focus, a constant low-grade tension you can't quite explain. And here's the unsettling part. Modern footwear, fixed soles, narrow toe boxes, heavy cushioning, can slowly shut down that sensory conversation between your feet and your brain. Not all at once, gradually, quietly, over years. You don't notice it happening until one day clarity feels harder to access, energy feels expensive, and your mind feels like it's always running slightly behind. This isn't a personal failure, it's a systems problem. And the reason this matters is simple. When the body doesn't feel safe, the brain never truly rests. No supplement, no mindset hack, no productivity trick can override that signal. In this video, we're going to expose how that signal gets disrupted, why your posture and breathing are deeply involved, and how to rebuild the foot-brain connection so your nervous system can finally stand down. If this kind of deep body-based understanding resonates with you, subscribe to DEEPBODY LAB and support the channel. It helps us keep creating content that goes beyond surface-level advice and into the real mechanics of how the human system works. Now, before we go any further, I want you to reflect on this question and answer honestly in the comments. Which do you believe is more responsible for brain fog? A, the brain itself, stress, mindset, mental overload. B, the body, sensory input, posture, and nervous system signals. Comment A or B below. If brain fog isn't a failure of your mind, then the next question becomes unavoidable. What information is your brain missing? To understand that, we have to start with something most people were never taught to respect: the intelligence of the human foot. Your foot is not just a passive structure designed to hold weight. It is one of the most advanced sensory organs in your body. Every step you take sends a stream of information upward, telling your brain how hard the ground is, how stable it feels, and how your body should organize itself in response. This process happens automatically. You don't consciously decide how to balance when you walk. Your brain already knows because your feet are constantly informing it. That sensory system has a name: proprioception. Proprioception is your body's internal sense of position and movement. It's what allows you to stand upright with your eyes closed, adjust your posture without thinking, and move efficiently through the world. You could think of it as your brain's built-in navigation system. When proprioceptive input is clear, the brain feels safe. When it's distorted, the brain becomes alert. The problem is that modern footwear dramatically alters that input. Thick, cushioned soles soften the ground so much that your feet stop feeling subtle changes in pressure.
Rigid arch supports take over the stabilizing work that small foot muscles were designed to do. Narrow toe boxes prevent the toes from spreading and adapting to surface changes. Over time, your feet stop communicating clearly. And when the signal from your feet becomes weak or delayed, your brain doesn't ignore it. It compensates. It increases muscle tension to create artificial stability. It stiffens posture to reduce unpredictability. It keeps your nervous system slightly on edge, just in case. This is not a conscious decision, it's a survival response. From your brain's perspective, unreliable sensory input equals potential danger. And when the brain senses danger, even subtle, low-grade danger, it shifts resources away from higher functions like focus and creativity and toward basic control and vigilance. That's why people with poor sensory input often feel tense without knowing why. Their shoulders rise, their jaw clenches, their breathing becomes shallow, their body is quietly bracing. And bracing is expensive. It costs energy every second you're upright. What makes this especially deceptive is that none of it feels dramatic. There's no sharp pain at first, no obvious injury, just a slow erosion of efficiency. Balance feels slightly worse than it used to. Coordination feels off. Standing for long periods becomes tiring. Mental clarity fades in ways you can't quite explain. Most people assume this is normal aging. It isn't. It's adaptation. Your nervous system is doing its best with incomplete information. And the longer it operates this way, the more normal the strain begins to feel. This is why brain fog often shows up alongside things like plantar foot discomfort, knee soreness, hip tightness, or lower back tension. They're not separate problems, they're expressions of the same disrupted feedback loop. Before we talk about fixing it, there's one more layer we need to understand. Because even if you restore strength and sensation in your feet, there's a place where all of this pressure eventually collects. And that place is your posture.
And this is where all of that hidden strain finally shows itself. Not in your thoughts, but in the way your body holds itself up. Posture is often treated as an appearance issue. Stand up straight, pull your shoulders back, don't slouch. But posture isn't about looking confident. It's about how efficiently your nervous system can manage gravity. Your body is built as a stacked system. Feet under hips, hips under rib cage under shoulders, head balanced over the spine. When that stack is aligned, force travels cleanly through the body. Muscles fire when they need to and relax when they don't. Breathing is easy. Balance feels effortless. But when the foundation becomes unstable, the entire system reorganizes itself. The feet collapse inward. The knees rotate slightly. The hips shift forward or sideways. The pelvis tilts. The lower back arches too much. The upper back rounds. The head drifts forward. None of this happens suddenly. It unfolds slowly, over years, as your nervous system searches for stability wherever it can find it. What matters isn't the shape of the posture. It's the cost of maintaining it. Because every deviation from alignment creates a small instability, and every instability demands a correction. Those corrections don't come from willpower, they come from your brain. Your nervous system is constantly monitoring balance, joint position, and center of gravity. When alignment is off, it has to run continuous micro-adjustments to keep you upright. That means certain muscles stay partially contracted all day long while others stop contributing altogether. This is where the real drain begins. Every one of those micro-corrections requires neuroprocessing. Not enough to feel dramatic, enough to matter over time. Your brain is spending energy just to keep the system from collapsing. That energy comes from the same pool used for focus, memory, emotional regulation, and decision-making.
So even when you're sitting still, your brain is busy managing instability in the background. Now layer breathing into this picture. When posture collapses, the rib cage drops forward and down. The diaphragm loses space to move. Breathing shifts upward into the chest. Oxygen intake becomes less efficient, and carbon dioxide tolerance drops. That subtle change tells the nervous system that something isn't right. Shallow breathing increases sympathetic activity. Heart rate variability decreases. Muscle tone rises even further, especially in the neck, shoulders, and jaw. The head drifts forward more, reinforcing the loop. Even your visual system gets pulled into this pattern. When the head moves forward, the eyes must adjust their focal strategy to compensate. That alters depth perception and spatial processing just enough to keep the brain slightly alert. The environment feels less stable, even if you can't consciously explain why. Over time, this constant low-grade vigilance becomes your baseline. You feel tired without exertion, focused but never sharp, productive but easily drained. This is the cognitive climax most people never reach in their understanding. Brain fog is not a lack of mental ability. It's the cost of a body that has adapted to instability for too long. Every misalignment steals processing power from your brain. And until the nervous system learns that it no longer needs to brace, no amount of willpower will fully restore clarity. Which brings us to the most important question of all. How do you teach your system that it's finally safe to let go?
The moment you understand that brain fog is a nervous system problem, not a mindset failure, everything about the solution changes. Most people try to fix symptoms from the outside. They stretch tighter muscles, strengthen weaker ones, buy better chairs, try harder to relax. And while some of that helps temporarily, it rarely lasts because the nervous system is still running the same program underneath it all. Your nervous system has two primary operating modes. One is sympathetic, fight, flight, vigilance, readiness. The other is parasympathetic, rest, repair, digestion, clarity. Neither is bad. The problem is getting stuck. Modern life quietly trains the body to associate movement with threat, grinding through workouts while clenching your jaw, breathing shallowly during runs, sitting for hours with the head pushed forward toward a screen. Over time, the nervous system learns that being upright and active requires constant alertness. So even when you improve mechanics, stronger feet, better posture, the software doesn't update. The body keeps bracing. That's why posture correction alone often feels exhausting. You're forcing alignment instead of allowing it. The nervous system doesn't respond to instructions, it responds to signals. And the strongest signals of safety come from three places: alignment, breath, and tempo. When your feet are grounded and your body is stacked naturally, the nervous system receives its first cue that things are under control. When breathing is slow, nasal, and expansive through the lower ribs, that message becomes clearer. Long, unforced exhales tell the brain that there is no immediate danger. This is where the vagus nerve comes into play. The vagus nerve is the primary communication line of the parasympathetic system. It influences heart rate variability, digestion, inflammation, and mental clarity. When it's underactive, stress lingers. When it's stimulated gently and consistently, the body begins to downshift. You don't stimulate it by forcing calm. You stimulate it by creating conditions where calm makes sense. Slow nasal breathing with longer exhales, pauses between breaths, allowing the rib cage to expand in all directions, not just the front. These patterns don't just improve oxygen exchange, they tell the nervous system that it no longer needs to guard every movement. Position matters too. Lying on your back with your legs elevated slightly reduces gravitational demand. Hands on the lower ribs, breathing into the sides and back of the body, shifts the nervous system out of vigilance. It's a physical reminder of safety. Even after exercise, the way you finish matters. Walking slowly, letting the breath settle, teaching your body that effort can end without consequences. Over time, these signals retrain your baseline. Muscles stop gripping when they don't need to. Breathing deepens on its own. Posture organizes itself without constant correction. Mental clarity returns, not as a burst of motivation, but as a quiet absence of strain. This is the payoff most people are chasing without realizing it. Not more discipline, not more hacks, but a nervous system that no longer wastes energy preparing for a threat that isn't there. And when that happens, the fog doesn't need to be fought. It simply lifts.
And when the nervous system finally lets go, something quiet but profound begins to happen. Your body starts to organize itself again. Not because you force it to, not because you think about it all day, but because the system no longer needs to brace. When your feet send clean information upward, your posture stops being a correction and becomes a default. When your breath no longer signals urgency, your muscles soften without collapsing. When alignment and breathing work together, your nervous system recognizes stability and stands down. This is what integration feels like. Movement becomes smoother. Standing requires less effort. Your jaw unclenches without you noticing. Your shoulders stop creeping toward your ears. And somewhere in that process, your mind clears. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but in a subtle, unmistakable one. Thoughts feel less crowded. Attention lasts longer. Decisions come with less friction. You're not trying to be focused, you simply are. This is why chasing brain fog directly rarely works. Fog isn't the problem, it's the signal. A signal that your system has been operating under unnecessary load for too long. When that load is removed, clarity returns naturally. And with clarity comes something even more important than productivity: resilience. The ability to handle stress without being consumed by it, to move through effort without staying stuck in tension, to recover quickly, not just physically, but mentally. At this point, the goal shifts. It's no longer about fixing yourself, it's about listening. You begin to notice when your breath shortens, when your posture drifts, when your feet lose contact with the ground. And instead of pushing through, you reset, quietly, gently, without judgment. This is an identity shift more than a technique. You stop seeing your body as something that needs to be controlled, optimized, or overridden. You start treating it as a system that communicates constantly and responds remarkably well when you pay attention. When your body feels safe, your brain no longer wastes energy scanning for problems that aren't there. That energy comes back to you, in your focus, in your presence, in the way you move through your day without feeling like you're dragging yourself along. And that's the real takeaway. Mental clarity isn't something you force from the top down, it's something you allow from the ground up. When your feet, your posture, and your nervous system work in sync, your mind finally has the space to do what it was always capable of doing: think clearly, adapt intelligently, and simply be. At its core, brain fog isn't a mystery or a personal flaw. It's often a signal that your body, your posture, and your nervous system have been operating under quiet strain for too long. When sensory input from the ground up becomes unclear, your brain works harder just to keep you stable, leaving less energy for focus, clarity, and creativity. The moment you restore alignment, breath, and safety in the body, the mind doesn't need to fight anymore. It can finally function as it was designed to. The deeper lesson is this: clarity is not forced through effort, discipline, or willpower. It emerges when the body feels safe. In daily life, that means paying attention to how you stand, how you breathe, how you move, and how often you reset tension instead of pushing through it. Small, consistent adjustments create profound mental change over time. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you feel more mentally clear when your body feels relaxed and grounded, or do you usually ignore physical signals and push through? Please share your thoughts in the comments so everyone can learn from different perspectives. And if this content brought you value, subscribe to the channel to support Deep Body Lab and help us continue creating deeper, more meaningful content for you.